Welcome to the West Ham Voice. Thank you for joining me. My name is Stel. If you're new to the channel, please do hit the subscribe and like button and the bell notification to let you know when I'm next on. It helps me immensely, helps the channel to grow, etc. So please do that if you like what you hear, what you see, etc. Now, what am I going to talk about? Well, very briefly, I'm going to talk about the present, the Premier League present, and I'm also going to talk even briefer about the future. And the future, of course, is the under-18s and the academy and their fantastic season that they've had. But let me focus first of all on the Premier League, because on Saturday lunchtime we play our ninth game of what has been quite a hard April set of fixtures. As far as the Premier League's concerned, it's not been the best. We know that. Certainly not the season we kind of expected. Yet, we're hanging on to Premier League survival, and many believe that just one more win is likely to secure our Premier League status for next season. In fact, as things go, the turgid season that we've had so far this season could actually become one of our most successful if we finish just above just around mid-table, just below mid-table, as well as winning the Europa Conference League. If we do go all the way in that tournament, we could win our first major trophy for 43 years, since 1980, the FA Cup. And it will also qualify us back into Europe for a historic third season in a row. Never been done before at West Ham. Now, whilst many would agree that the season's been poor, would West Ham United get rid of their most successful manager in over 40 years if all that were to happen? Well, that's for another day, another time, another debate, and I guess we'll find out soon enough. But let's focus on the Premier League for a moment, because the result against Liverpool could end up having a far more significant impact than we think. As I'm sure you all know, yet again, Chris Kavanagh chose to do one over on West Ham United. He ignored a nailed-on penalty claim, which was only a few feet away from him. But what made it even worse was that VAR decided, for some absolutely bizarre reason, not to recommend to Kavanagh to at least check the handball incident that happened. Still, the game is over. We cannot change the result, and we suffered only our second defeat of a really busy April schedule. After the other results in the Premier League this week, we find ourselves 3 places and 5 points clear of the bottom 3, with a game in hand and a superior goal difference over our relegation rivals, and, as mentioned, probably needing just that one win to keep ourselves safe. But with 6 games left in the league, are we going to get these 3 points? Well, let's focus for a moment on the other teams still in trouble. Now, most of the teams down the bottom 3 will be playing against each other between now and the end of the season. I think there are just really 6 teams left in the relegation battle now, with Wolves and Palace on 37 points, knowing that they're just about safe. So for me, the teams in the relegation battle are obvious: Bournemouth, West Ham, Leeds United, Nottingham Forest, Leicester, Everton, and Southampton. Now, I'm sure many West Ham fans are going to be looking out for the results of these teams between now and the end of the season. But the pivotal games to look out for is when relegation-threatened rivals play each other. We start with Sunday, the 30th of April at 2 o'clock, where Bournemouth meet Leeds. Then on Monday, the 1st of May at 8 o'clock, Leicester play Everton. Then on Monday, the 8th of May at 8 o'clock again, Nottingham Forest play Southampton. And then on Sunday, the 21st of May, we're in action against Leeds United at home at 1:30 in the afternoon. And then the final 2 games, which will be pivotal, is the final day of the games of the season on the 28th of May, Sunday the 28th at 4:30, when Everton play Bournemouth and ourselves again are away to Leicester. The teams that take points off each other will stand a far better chance of surviving the relegation area. But as you can see, we don't want to have to go to the final 2 games of the season to get the points we need. We want to get our points before the 2 games coming up in our running, and they are, of course, against Leeds and Leicester. So the rest of the running is as follows. Saturday, as I said, it starts off against Crystal Palace at 12:30 away. And then on the 3rd of May, we play Man City, 8 o'clock away from home. And then on Sunday, the 7th of May, we host Man United at 7 o'clock at home. On Sunday, the 14th of May, well, away again at 2 o'clock against Brentford. On Sunday, the 21st of May at 1:30, it's Leeds United at home. And then the final game, as I've said already, Sunday, the 28th of May at 4:30, Leicester City away. So you can see from our last 6 games in the Premier League, we've only got 2 at home and the other 4 are away. When we look at these last 6 games in all competitions against these teams, there is likely to be very little expectation from the Manchester games. We've only beaten Man City once in recent times. In fact, our last 6 games against them have been 1 win, 2 draws, 2 draws and 3 defeats. And the game that we won against them was the League Cup last season when we won on penalties. Having said that, it was quite a resilient performance, defensive performance. Could earn us a draw on Wednesday, but with Erling Haaland in their team, do we really think we're going to keep a clean sheet? Then there's the resurgent Man United. Now, in the last 6 games against them, we've won 1, drawn none, and lost 5. In fact, we've got a worse record against them than we have against Man City. But just like Man City, the only win that we've had against them recently, again, has been in the League Cup. So those 2 teams aside, that leaves us with Crystal Palace and Brentford, as well as relegation rivals Leeds and Leicester. Now, Brentford have proved to be another bogey team for West Ham United in the Premier League. In our last 6 games against them, we've won 2, drawn 1, and lost 3. But guess what? All the 3 defeats have been in the Premier League. The 2 wins and the 1 draw have been outside of the Premier League. Now, what might stand us in good favour against Brentford is that we did play them at their ground in January in the FA Cup when we beat them 1-0. I think we can beat them if we just apply ourselves against them. This could prove to be one of the few pivotal games in the remainder of our season. The other pivotal game, as I've already mentioned, is really Crystal Palace. Now, in the last 6 games against them, we've won 2, drawn 2, and lost 2. So it's been honours evens. And whether we like it or not, teams like Palace, teams like Brentford, there are real competition in the Premier League because including ourselves, those teams and other teams, they're the sorts of teams that should be competing, challenging to finish in the top half of the league. Now, I know we all think we're better than that. We should be competing and challenging for top 6, etc. And don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting that we shouldn't. But when it comes to the Premier League, we are a mid-table team that should be aspiring to achieve higher. But teams like Palace and Brentford are the sort of teams that we should be competing against and beating, to be quite honest with you. Brentford, they're with a faint chance of getting back into Europe. Well, not back into, but getting into Europe. So they've still got something to play for. But Palace, probably playing for pride more than anything else. So those are the 2 pivotal games for me. You know, we've got to get our 3 points, or at least 3 points in those games in order to set ourselves up nicely for when we play the last 2 games of the season, which against relegation rivals, Leeds United and Leicester City. We don't want to be going into those games with no more points on the board before then. We've had the better of Leeds United over the past 6 games, to be honest with you. Against Leeds United, we've won 4, drawn 1, and lost 1. However, Leeds United did take 3 points off us earlier this season. So it's going to be quite a crucial game. It's going to be a tight game, even though it's at home. That's the sort of game that we could end up slipping up and losing against. And against Leicester City, again, we've been reasonable. We've won 3, drawn 1, and lost 2 of our last 6 games. But one of those defeats was just before the World Cup break, where they beat us at home. So both these teams have taken points off us this season. And that's why it kind of makes me nervous that we'll go into the final 2 games without any more points on the board. That will be a bit tricky. That will be squeaky bum time, to be quite honest with you. So that's why I'm looking at, if we get something out of the Manchester teams, great. A bonus, a massive bonus. But for me, the pivotal games for me have got to be against Crystal Palace and they've got to be against Brentford. If we can get the points that we need, however we do it, well, it doesn't have to be a win. If we can get 3 draws between now and the time that we meet Leeds United, then all fair and well. But we need those 3 points in one way or another before we get to the final 2 games of our season. My prediction against Palace, I'm going to go out on a limb. I think we've done well against them, recently. So I think we can win that. I think it'll be a tight 2-1 win for us. Let's go for a 2-1 win. Right. I'm going to now talk very briefly about the fantastic season that our under 18s have had under Kevin Keane. Of course, Premier League South champions, FA Youth Cup winners the other day. Fantastic game that they played against Arsenal in the final. And now we've got the possibility of a treble where we could beat, if we play, we're going to play Man City, who are the Premier League under 18 Northern champions. And there's going to be a playoff between the two teams to see who are going to be overall champions of the under 18s. Now, look, whilst I'm absolutely delighted for this young, talented crop of players, I've already started to read on social media that fans want Moyes to start bringing them into the first team. Now, for that to happen, they have to be of exceptional talent. And the only one of those players who could potentially have a sniff of first team football next season is, of course, Divine Mbama. But I'll be honest with you, I'm not expecting him to break into the first team next season. If he does, I'll be elated. But I think he and possibly one or two others, maybe in the under 21s, maybe another one in the under 18s, might go out on loan next season. There were just under 40 scouts at the semi-finals in the under-18s game between West Ham United and Southampton at the London Stadium a few weeks ago, and I dare say that there were as many, if not more, at the final between Arsenal and West Ham the other day. It would not surprise me one bit if Divine and Barmer was one of the players that was scouted to be, to for a request to be made for him to go out on loan next season to maybe a League One side or preferably a Championship team next season. Imagine Mbama going out on loan, scoring a decent number of goals, only to return to the West Ham the following season to stake a claim in the first team. By the time the 24-25 season starts, he'll only be just under 20 years of age, with a loan season under his belt, hopefully a successful one, and ready to really take part in the Premier League. Most of the other youngsters in the under 18s, like Ollie Scarles, Patrick Kelly, Lewis Orford, Gideon Kadua, the captain, and Callum Marshall, could well find themselves stepping up into the under 21 development squad next season to see how well they do at that level. And perhaps one or two of them might get a glimpse of senior team football in a cup competition next season. But don't go expecting a whole-scale movement of these young players from the under 18s academy into senior team football overnight. It simply doesn't happen that way. Not only at West Ham, but rarely at any Premier League club. Now, I know a lot of you are saying David Moyes doesn't give youngsters a chance, etc. But ironically, that's a bit silly because over the couple of seasons that he's been at West Ham United, Moyes, he's been taking youngsters into the first team, giving them a sniff, giving them a little bit of game time. All right, sometimes it's not enough. Other times it's in a dead rubber, like, the Europa games when there's nothing to play for. But it doesn't matter. He's still bringing them through to see how they cope. But the possibility of senior football isn't, or the lack of senior football, isn't just a West Ham thing or a David Moyes thing. Hardly any Premier League teams pull through a vast number of their academy players into senior team football. Let them take time to develop. Let them enjoy their football as they clearly have been doing this past season. And if we get one or two players breaking through over the next couple of years, then I think we've done well. I don't expect much more than that. And I don't think fans should really think it's a failure if only a couple of the players that we've seen in action make it through to the senior team. Having said that, I think Mbama and perhaps Kadua could well be destined for a great career path at West Ham. Anyway, that's it from me. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. As I said, if you like the channel, please do hit the subscribe button and the like button and the bell notification to let you know when I'm next on. And I'll see you all very, very soon.